We cover pro Columbus. Tune in and join us. Disrespected Media.
Hello and welcome to Cannonballs, a production of Disrespected Media, LLC. I'm Michael Arace, proprietor, host. Check out my website, thedisrespected.com. Focused on the crew and the Blue Jackets, but I get around still yet. I have a very special guest today. I've been waiting to do this. We've been trying to arrange this for some time now, and finally, I think before he heads to Mazatlan or wherever, Jody Shelley has found a moment to sit down with the Cannonballs here. Jody, I really appreciate it coming. Jody Shelley, of course, is an original Blue Jacket. I count him so, and my opinion on that is of some relevance here. An original Blue Jacket, wound up playing 627 games in the NHL for the Jackets, San Jose Sharks, New York Rangers, and Philadelphia Flyers. 18 goals. It doesn't sound a lot, but they were big. They were key goals, and many of them were highlight reel. 36 assists, 54 points, 1,538 penalty minutes over his career. Cody, did you ever think that you would play 627 NHL games?
That is a great question, and the answer is definitely no. I never thought I'd play one NHL game, and I was on the path of survival, and just kept hanging on and squeezed out 627. But hey, I want to say thanks for having me on the show, and great introduction. One of my favorite ones yet.
Oh, I appreciate that, Jody. Thanks for pandering. And speaking of pandering, we can segue right to the Blue Jackets Cup, which was won by the St. Charles Cardinal, including one Owen Shelley, if I'm not mistaken. And
That's correct.
What was that like, Jody?
Well, they've had a pretty special season. They got a good team, good goaltending, and to see him be a part of a varsity hockey, championship was awesome. I mean, like you talk about me being a hockey player, now I'm a broadcaster, but number one and the most thing I'm proud of is being the father of my son, Owen, and my daughter, Evelyn. And you know that with the tribe you have there and how you see them all grow. So just those little moments are great to see him be a part of and to watch how he reacts and, handles pressure. And, it's been an impressive ride here for the first 17 years with Owen. So they got a good team, but I'll tell you, high school hockey in Columbus is just so competitive all over Ohio.
That final was the Iron, was it not? Upper Arlington against St. Charles? That was the Iron of Central Ohio.
Yeah, now the state championship comes, and who's defeating that title is Upper Arlington. Liberty's been in there the past couple years, so it's always been around here. Talk about Cleveland and Cincinnati. Well, guess who's invaded that turf is in high school hockey. And it has to do with the Blue Jackets starting, the AAA program growing, and then high school hockey has jumped in there. Now female hockey, women's hockey has grown. So you're seeing Columbus on the map on all different areas and winning championships. And hopefully soon they get a championship here with the Blue Jackets. But right now, high school hockey is the cream of the crop.
Yeah, and we need more sheets, and that's the subject of another program. We can talk about the battery too and whatever, but we'll get Ginger on here or something. But
you got to get Atkinson on. He's
that's right.
He's involved with that heavily.
What I want to circle back to right now is you said you never expected to play one NHL game. And I'm going to ask you to tell the story. I know you've told it before, but of your first NHL game. I mean, it was you were a legendary junior player. But you needed to get your toe in the door in the NHL, and the story of you waiting for, participating in, and then being immediately farmed out again in 2000. Just give us the lattice work of that story, Jody. It's such a good one.
Well, it'll be.
And I'll add some color where I see it, where I see fit.
It'll be a 25-year anniversary here in just 6 days, February 17th, 2000. February 17th, 2001, I got the call that I was going to be going up to the Blue Jackets. But about 2 weeks before, I think I signed a contract. And, I still didn't believe it. Like, I was on an American League contract with an expansion team, the Columbus Blue Jackets. I went to camp. The year before, I was in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, fighting to be there in St. John of the American Hockey League. And, when you're in the coast, you never think you're close enough. You're so far away from the NHL. Then you get to Syracuse and you still feel like, or in my mind, it was just like, yeah, there's other guys ahead of me. But I just took care of my business, great, one of those great terms. And I fought everyone, and I did my job that Jimmy Clark had called me to do, and that was be the tough guy for the Syracuse Crunch. And, they had a little bit of a falling out here with Christoph Olawa, and he had announced that he'll be back on February 17th of that year. And that's when the ball started rolling. And Gary Agnew would say to me, "Oh, we got to work on quick feed and puck handling after practice." I said, "Okay." I would just do it. He's like, "You're going to get a chance to go up someday." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever. I'll just do the work today and then go have a beer after and enjoy my teammates here and wait for the game on Saturday." So I got the call. I got the flight. Next thing, I was in a room with Lyle Odeline, Jeff Sanderson, Tyler Wright, Ron Tugnut, all the greats, shaking hands. They're saying words to me that I never know what they said, but I was in this atmosphere of the National Hockey League getting ready to play against Mario Lemieux and the Pittsburgh Penguins, which I think was Mario's last time in the building. A back note to this story is my parents never traveled. Never. We grew up with, just getting through and getting it done and trying to make the most of life. And they won a trip to Las Vegas. So they were two kids in a candy store. And February 16th, I tried to call them, but couldn't track them down. Tried to leave messages. I wanted them to know I was going to the NHL. Finally got a hold of them on game day, full of a little bit of frustration. And I was like, are you guys going to watch tonight or what? "Oh, yeah," my dad, Ned Shelley, says, "Oh, yeah, we'll be watching. So didn't hear from them before the game, couldn't get a hold of them after. And finally, I got a hold of them when I was on this high of playing my first NHL game. And my dad on the phone, like my dad would say, I was so jacked up and so excited. He said, "Well, great job. Sorry we missed it. Just means you'll have to play one more," and I was like, "Geez, that's not what I want to hear right now." But when that night came to break, Michael, I got on the ice for warm up. I floated around. I got on the ice. I lined up. I saw Olawa out on the ice on the other side. He was a left winger. He was on the right side next to me, actually. And there was a guy named Steve McKenna on the other side who I didn't even know he was on the ice or in the building. I was focused on one thing, and that was Christoph Olawa. And this was right in front of the penalty box. Puck hits the ice. I look at Olawa. The next thing, there's this shadow of 6'9" McKenna standing over me, and I'm looking up and I'm saying, "Oh, all right." So I fought him, took the short walk to the box, which was about 8 feet, got in, sat down, looked around at the crowd and thought, wow, this place is amazing. Even more amazing than I thought in warm-up. But back to the bench, the guys were excited. And then the next shift out was in the offensive zone. Dave King put me out there against Olawa. Puck hits the ice. I fought Olawa. I go to the box. Everyone seems to be happy. And I don't know how that got to be 8 seconds of ice time. I don't know who was working the clock that night, but it was about 2 seconds. And it wasn't ice time. I didn't need gloves or a stick for those 2 shifts. And then I got another shift after, I guess, or maybe 2. And in the locker room after, I remember the guys in the locker room, they were getting excited because it was the first trip out to LA, Anaheim, this California trip. The locker room was buzzing. And I was sitting in my stall smiling, happy that I was in the NHL, just thinking in the back of my mind, well, maybe I'll be going out west. And Jim Rankin, God rest his soul, the travel guy, came over and he looked at me and he said, "Nice job, Jody. Here's your ticket back to Syracuse." And so back to the bus I went, but I held my head high, and now that's when I had a dream to play in the NHL. Before it was a fantasy, something that was untouchable, unthinkable. But I came to camp next year ready to make my mark.
And so you did. I want to skip ahead here. Kind of, we should talk about the Blue Jackets because your time is limited here. I have some other
Yeah,
questions, but and we'll have to circle back then to cover this other stuff that I want to get
sure.
to. But let's talk about Rick Bowness, the Bowness Bump,
Yeah.
the CBJ surge, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of catchy names, I guess. The Jackets heading into the Olympic break. won 11 of 12, including 10 of 11 under Rick Bowness, the new coach, who was hired on the 12th and coached his first game on the 13th of January. So they head into the break as the hottest team in the league with seven wins in a row, all in regulation, which you put a star on that, because that was one of the issues prior to his arrival, as were the special teams. I mean, I was writing that if their power play and kill was anything, especially their kill, which was killing them, they would have been in a playoff position in all likelihood. And because you think of all those squandered points, and Dean Evison wouldn't have got fired. Anyway, a lot of things have changed, Jody. What I can cite you a bunch of statistics, what they've done under Bowness, which is remarkable. I'll just go to my favorite number, which is always a goal diff, and they're plus 19 in 11 games under Rick Bowness, which is ridiculous. And that's the thing. I always come back to it. At the end of the season, you look at who's in the playoffs, and generally speaking, they're all plus, and who isn't in the playoffs, and they're all minus. And right now, the Jackets, I think they're -5 now, but they've made up 19 in the last 10 games. Just your thoughts on Bowness, what you've seen, what you attribute this to, and can it be sustained?
What I've seen is that he's coached them from the second he got behind the bench, like direct coaching, one-on-one and team coaching, where it's encouragement, pats on the back, direction. It's been a very firm and concise direction that he wants everyone to pull the rope in the same direction in. And that's when you're on a team and you're coached like that, everything is clear. And I think that's very good for this group. These are young men who want feedback nonstop. They want feedback on video. They want a pat on the back. I've talked to some of the players, and they say it's nice, to know that even though I played 10 minutes tonight, I played 16 last night, that it was recognized and it was talked about. And the reason why I didn't get out there was because we took too many penalties in the second period. That goes a long way with people in any business you're in, just the feedback of where I stand and what's happening. And I think there was too many nights where guys were just unsure, and, they'd hear the comments of why they lost, maybe in the media. And, I just thought he took ownership and full responsibility of the bench. He's the head coach. He controls the assistant coaches. He controls what's happening, and the players appreciate that firm and assertive way that he has, but also in almost like he's got so much respect from so much experience. He's got nothing to lose in this position. He's genuinely, wholeheartedly there with the team. And I think that is something that's very special. They timed it perfectly. You have to credit Don Waddell for going out and making this move when he did at the right time before it's too late. Is it sustainable? I go back to last year. They were a hot team going into that break last year. And, they stumbled out of it. And I hope that that's a learning lesson. When you put seasons together, you learn lessons. And I think that this group has. Listen, the goal is for and goal against. I know the numbers are important, but I also look at the team play, and this is a hard team to play against because they are clicking on all cylinders. Their team game is good. Their individuals are playing well, coming from the goaltender out. You can look at a team that's used all 82 games and hit the playoffs at the right time. I go back to the Flyers of 2010. I only know it so well because I was on the Rangers. It went down to a shootout in game 82. And that was an underachieving, dysfunctional team all season long. The narrative was out of the locker room all season long. And they got in a shootout over us, the Rangers, and they went to the Stanley Cup Finals and lost to Chicago in an overtime goal.
Well, you can look at Florida 3 years ago. It comes down to the Marchand breakaway on Bobrovsky. Marchand with the Bruins, Bobrovsky with the Florida Panthers. Bobrovsky shocks them. The series goes to another game. They drag it back to Boston. And you know what? They end up winning that series. So there's all those numbers at this point of the season, but I think the first 55 games we forget. I think there's times we forget how long the season is. Game 20, game 15, game 8. We're overanalyzing. There's a feel to a team that something needs to happen or click within a team to realize exactly how hard it is to score goals, how hard it is to keep the opposition from scoring goals in situations where they're on a comeback or they're down or they pull the goalie. It's hard. This is the best league of the world. So
All those factors are in there, but right now, this is a team that gives themselves the best chance every night with how they play to a man, and that is a good team. I do think it's sustainable because they understand exactly what the Columbus Blue Jackets to a man has to be each night to get 2 points.
Which players in your view have blossomed over the last 12 games or 10 games or 11
Well, I
games, I should
like
say?
the growth of Elvis Merzlikins. I think the
Yeah.
attitude and the lesson he learned this year under Dean Evison of being called that, backup goalie, he changed his ways a little bit. I like how he's being used, and I like how he appreciates it. I think that we all need lessons at moments in our life of appreciation. I think
Well,
he's
you need
got it.
two goalies too.
You
I
need 2
mean,
goalies, but you need to have them playing at their top level and not think that they've already earned with their past play what they have, is coming at them now. And I think Elvis has figured that out. Charlie Coyle is the biggest one to me. I mean, Charlie Coyle is a third line centerman who is valuable in all positions, every position. Power play, he's slotted in as that right-handed shot player down low. He's reliable, he's strong in battles, and he carries his weight all over the ice. I think Marchment was a nice surprise right from the start, brings an element of personality I think every team needs. It's just different. He plays the game different. He has a different flavor every shift. You never know what he's going to do or what he's going to stir up. I want to say Kent Johnson. I thought Kent Johnson early, but there's still moments in battles where he needs to improve. And I definitely have seen a bump in ice time and situational play and getting those moments. He's a young player. And I think Fantilli is a guy who expects so much out of himself. He's a number one setter with Marchenko. Marchenko's a demanding winger. And I think under a system like this, where everything is defined for every player, so to speak, in areas, you can rely on the team game and not just worry about when you come back from the bench to say to Marchenko saying, oh, you should have shot that instead of passing it to me, or you should have passed it instead of shooting it. Those are things for a young player in Fantilli that as he grows, he'll figure out, forget the noise from you. I'll play my game. Let's see where the results come. And you see him scoring goals now after that drought.
and they need him to, Jody,
Yeah, they need
because
him to. Yeah.
you look at these other young teams that are surging. Your former Sharks team, the Ducks, these guys that have gotten their hands on um, elite players and are now starting the process of building up rather than tearing down. But that elite scorer is they need Adam Fantilli to be an elite scorer, and I don't know if it's the pressure he put on himself or whatever, but it looked like he was going to be that player over the second half of last season, and just haven't quite seen it yet this season. Any
That was the
comments on that?
most he's ever played. He played half a year his first year, played a full season last year. And here he is. What's he got? It's just his fourth year or third year in the league. Now he's got his third year in the league. He's had 4 coaches in 3 years.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of factors on Adam Fantilli. He's going to be better for the long run in it because of his drive. You see it, but he's starting to mature. He's matured every single year. And I think that's the biggest growth I've seen in him. It's really a belief in himself, but not looking for validation from the outside.
Jody, what does Bowness do at the trade deadline? It's an interesting spot because of the Olympic break. What is it? March 5th is the trade deadline. He's sitting on 4 or 5 UFAs. I don't. Right now, there's the Olympic freeze is in effect, but I'm sure that there's conversations being had off the books. I think fans are really curious to understand the dynamics of Don Waddell's thinking on the other side of the Olympic break. How would you assess that?
Yeah, that is something that is a great discussion. I mean, look at what they did last year, and it didn't move the needle. Now, last year was different. They started with a tragedy. They bonded over it. There was unforeseen, unthinkable circumstances to deal with daily. There was sharing of emotions. It was just it was a unique season. And then you added pieces to the group, and then, players fell off after the break, the Four Nations break, and, you could feel it sliding. And then it was too little too late to right the ship. They got to be careful, I think. I think you've already got acquisitions in healthy players coming back from this season. I think you've found roles in players. I think you've got long-term players like Boone Jenner, who have been here and his UFA that would be hard to think of the Blue Jackets, along with, a piece that is going to need a contract in a couple of years. Zach Werenski, he's watching closely to see what happens. He said a few times about Charlie Coyle being one of his favorite teammates. Zach has messages within his messaging. And, that's something that's real and has to be thought about, I think. And, those are all things you have to take into consideration. With Marchment, I like him, but is he a long-term play? He's a guy in his contract here who's bounced around a lot. You got to be really, really thorough in understanding that you're going to sign him to a 4-year deal. What happens after he gets the contract? I don't know well enough to know, but those are concerns and conversations that'll be had. Good. Branson looks good to me. He's back. He looks like he's got an important piece down the stretch. I think you make a tweak or two with maybe picking up another defenseman like a Jack Johnson, who now is retired, but he's got pedigree in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He appreciates another chance. He'll play the 6-7 role.
Right. So I think what you're saying here is that given this streak that they're on heading into the break, that coming out of the break, this is not a situation, or it's highly unlikely that they tear it down again, and use their assets in a way that some people would consider smartly by selling off what would be very valuable rentals, guys like Coyle, etc. And that
you got to be careful with that.
They're going to stay the course. They're going to stay the course. And
now, a month ago, I would have had a different decision. And
yes.
Then you're looking at Werenski and saying, you know what? There's probably going to be a movement here. I mean, you're going to be 30 years old. You've already lived through one teardown where, you saw Foligno, Aaron, Anderson, Vard, Atkinson, everybody kind of moved.
Dubois, yeah.
Dubois, you know what I mean? So you got to be careful. I think you got to be careful with your superstar. If you come out of the gate and sputter, you make a move, right? If you come out of the gate and sputter, you make a move. If you come out of the gate and you get injuries and you fall out, you probably make your move. But it's a small window, and with the East being as wide open as it is this year, it is wide open. I mean, there is not a team, if you're hot going into the playoffs and they continue what they're doing, they could go right through the East, and that's not over exaggerating. That is it's one of those years.
Metro sucks too.
It's upside down.
Yeah. They're 4 points out of the 2 wild card. They're 4 points out of third place in the Metro, and they're 5 points out of second place in the Metro. They've already did a lot of the hard lifting they had to do, which is they've moved ahead of the 8 teams that were in front of them before Rick Bowness took over. So now you see this is doable now, and I know you have to go in a minute.
I got time.
Okay, cool. Because I want to come back to Zach Werenski. For me, I'm in close conversation with him as a manager, in terms of what I'm going to do next. Because this is what looks like a first ballot Hall of Famer right now, and I can make the case to you right now. I've made it before in print. I've done it on this podcast, but this is a very special player, who, Jody, he might be right now today the best defenseman in the world. Maybe not next week or 2 weeks from now he'll be in the top 3, but today he might be the best defenseman in the world. Can you just talk about how he has come to be a man in full over the last 2 seasons, and how he's changed dynamically and the way he carries himself within and without of the locker room?
Never met anyone like him as far as a professional athlete. And he is thorough. He's determined. He's healthy. And I think that, when you go through injuries early in your career, there's a level of focus and appreciation on making sure you're healthy, finding a way to play the game to make sure you're healthy. He's done that. Rarely gets hit, smart with the puck, anticipates out of trouble. He's got an even keel personality on and off the ice, and he appreciates every single moment to win a game or be a part of a winning team. To me, you watch him after the games when they're doing, the 3 stars, or, there's a couple of unique situations where they stayed on the ice, the Charlie Coyle celebration. And then when they sent them off to Italy for the Olympics, and the team stays on the ice, you watch players' personalities, you watch how they handle their teammates, you watch how he's one of 23, and I think that's a compliment to him. He just wants everyone to have success and do well. He's driven to win the Norris Trophy. He's driven to play at the Four Nations last year. He's driven to play at the Olympics this year. He's starting off as a number 5D, it looks like, which, okay. We'll see where he ends up at the end, but he led all the
We'll count his points up at the end of the tournament.
Let's see where he is at the end of the tournament. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's Zach. He's understated, underappreciated, soft-spoken, but when you watch coaches around him and they need him in situations, he's there. He's the guy to go to. So, and he's got a unique build, Michael. He's a big, naturally strong guy, and he uses that weight when he can. And we've seen the fire. We've seen him fight. He's a student. Like, he understands the NHL and hockey to a T. He watches. And I think he's such a valuable leader in this locker room. And he really came and rose as a leader last year when he had to. I saw a situation last year where there was a player at the end of a shift who was frustrated with his line mates' play. And it was a TV timeout whistle. I think the play was a shot on net where the other teammate was wide open. I'm not going to name names. But the frustrated teammate who didn't get the puck with this young player took the TV timeout and took a lap, kind of cooled down. And as I saw Zach read it right away, hopped over the boards and skated the full lap with the player who was frustrated, just side by side, talking in his ear. And I watched this player who was a veteran come back to the bench, look at the young kid who didn't give him the puck and said, "Nice try, good job." And I'm like, that's leadership and awareness of what's going on all the time. And he's got all the intangibles. He has to collect some more trophies before he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I'll argue on that. But I think he's on the path, But when you look at his production, he doesn't get out there every shift with McKinnon like Makar does. Not taking anything away from Makar, but I know Zach would love the situation to be out there offensively with an offensive line every time. There's a lot of times he's out there with the Coyle line, who's a checking line against the best of the opposition. That elevates his stock for me as well. It's a situational play. He's always on the ice in every situation.
Your point's well taken about the trophies. And I think he wants some trophies now. I think he's sick of losing. And it's time for the Blue Jackets to go deeper in the play. It's time for them to make the playoffs and to begin some deep runs. Jody, it's been too long. You were here in the first year, and geez, I just looked down, and you've been in the booth now since 2014.
What happened? I don't get it. I just turned 50. 14 years ago I retired. Or what has it been? 13 years this August. Yeah. I don't know what's going on, man. It's moving along.
So you had to reunite with Rimmer.
Yeah. I love it.
And I know
great.
Did he get all the names right?
Yes, he was great. We had fun. He was so excited about it. Jeff's been here for 20 years. He's called so many great moments in this organization. It was nice that they brought him back with Mears on special assignment. And it created a lot of buzz around this team to see, to hear the Rimmer's voice.
No, good for Rims. Always a pleasure to see him. And I didn't hear his call.
It was awesome.
But Jody, lastly, how do you see? It's unfair to ask, but I'll ask anyway. How do you see post break going for the Jackets? For instance, I look at a team with only two players, Zach Werenski and Elvis Merzlikins, that are playing in the Olympics. If you look above the Jackets in the standings, there's some teams with a lot of players that are in the Olympics, Pittsburgh, for example. But I see that team with only two players on Olympic duty and coming back, I think, on the 18th of February, and playing their first game back on the 26th of February, which gives Rick Bowness and his coaching staff a week-long mini camp, something like that. And so I think we'll see how that goes. But I think with this coach, given what they did pre-break, coming out of the break with a 7-day camp under their belts, with a clear idea of where they are in the standings and how he wants them to play on the ice. I'm not saying they're going to win 10 of every 11 games going down the stretch, but I like where they sit. Do you?
I do. And I think Zach Werenski, I got to interview him on the bench just before they left for the Olympics. And he was excited about what the business, where they were at here coming back. It's, they've put themselves in a position to be ready to come back and be excited to be back in the race and work for the next goal, and that's getting in the playoffs, which would be a top 3 in the Metro. It's not going to be a wild card position. It doesn't look like it with the Atlantic taking those 2 positions. So, yes, and I think that Rick Bowness, think of his situation, comes in, coaches for a month and a bit, gets the team back on track, takes a break. You know it's eating at him to get back from the break. He's going to be refreshed, rejuvenated, have new ideas, and get ready to put the pedal down and set the tone to push to the playoffs and push past the deadline. And I think that is a big refresher for him and the players. You know, I was thinking today, what's it been? It's been a week since they played a game. It'll be a week tomorrow, right? And, I went and worked out today, and I was like, when I was a player, this would have been too long without thinking about getting ready for the season. So they're taking a break, but they're sharpening the knife with how they're getting ready for this camp that's coming up. And they have business to take care of. And you know what's great? They've got competition within their lineup. There's players in and out. There's players moved up and down off lines. There's players moved in and out of the power play. There's players that want to hold on to where they are. They've got a good mix of understanding where they're at as a team and what it takes for this final stretch, which is going to be the hardest hockey of the year. They have competition within, and they've got a voice that's refreshed them. And the goaltending's been solid, which a lot of teams ahead of them and behind them are still struggling with. I think they've learned enough this season. I think that's a key to 82-game season. You have to learn where you fit in and what it takes in this new season to win games, and I think that they've done that.
That's Jody Shelley. You heard it here, folks, predicting the Blue Jackets will make the playoffs and a deep run toward the Stanley Cup. I'm sure Judy's fired up too. Everyone's fired up in Columbus. It's good to see you again. Jody, thank you very much for joining us here on the Cannonballs. Folks, go to thedisrespected.com to see all my work. Come on over, stop by the R Bar on Saturday beginning at 2. It's an afternoon of love and disrespect. Choke a couple down, maybe record a podcast. I don't know. We've got some merch to raffle off, and good conversation. So stop on by. And that's it. We'll just end it there, Jody.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. We'll get back to you soon, I hope.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate your work. Keep up the great work on The Disrespected. Great writing, and I'm glad you're doing the podcast. And I love your shirt. I don't know where you're at, but I see there's a rack
I'll
back
get you
there
one
with
of
those
these shirts.
shirts.
What size do you want?
It
says USA on it. I don't know if you'll wear it.
I'll wear it when I'm on vacation after, of course.
You know, I had Butchagras on, and he picked a sweatshirt off there, and we sent it right to him. Yeah.
I'd love that.
All right,
shirt.
that's Jody Shelley, folks, and I know he's got to go. Jody, just hang